At first glance, this little cabin looks like the kind of place people rent for a few $100s a night. It sits quietly between the trees, with warm light glowing through the glass, a simple wooden porch out front, and just enough space to feel private, peaceful, and expensive. It has the feeling of a mountain retreat, a weekend escape, or a small resort cabin designed for people who want to get away from noise, traffic, and high monthly payments. Most people would look at a cabin like this and assume the real cost has to be $100,000, maybe $200,000, and in some areas, even more. But when you start searching for prefab cabin kits, you begin seeing something that sounds almost too good to be true. Some cabin kits are advertised under $50,000, and that is where the dream starts. It is also where many buyers misunderstand what they are actually buying. A cabin kit under $50,000 can be a real opportunity. It may include the main frame, the shell, the wall panels, the roof structure, the basic materials, or a package that gets the project started faster than building from scratch. But that price is usually not the full finished cost of a cabin you can move into immediately. It may not include the land. It may not include the foundation. It may not include delivery, crane work, site prep, insulation, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, septic, water, interior finishes, windows, doors, labor, permits, engineering, or local inspections. In other words, the kit can be the beginning of the cabin, not the total price of the cabin. And if you do not understand that difference, a beautiful, affordable-looking project can become much more expensive than expected. That does not mean prefab cabin kits are bad. In many cases, they can be one of the most interesting ways to build a small retreat, a guest house, a studio, a rental cabin, or a simple place on rural land. But the smartest buyers do not ask only, how cheap is the kit? They ask, what will this cost when it is legal, insulated, connected, finished, and comfortable enough to actually use? That question matters more than the advertised number. Prefab cabin kits are getting so much attention because many Americans feel boxed in by the traditional housing market. The old idea of buying a modest starter home has become harder in many places. Mortgage payments are higher. Older houses often need expensive repairs. New construction can feel out of reach. Even tiny homes, which were supposed to be the affordable alternative, are sometimes priced so high that buyers wonder what they are really saving. So, when people see a small cabin kit that looks beautiful and starts under $50,000, it feels like a loophole. It feels like a way back to ownership, back to land, back to a simpler kind of life. A cabin does not have to be huge to feel meaningful. For some people, it is a weekend place in the woods. For others, it is a backyard office, a guest cabin, a hunting cabin, a fishing cabin, a remote work studio, or the first step toward living on land they already own. The emotional appeal is very strong, because these cabins promise something bigger than square footage. They promise quiet mornings, lower bills, warm windows at night, a porch in the rain, and a small home that feels possible again. But before choosing any kit, you have to separate the dream from the build. A good kit can reduce confusion. It can organize the main materials. It can give you a proven design instead of starting from a blank page. It can make the project feel more controlled. But a kit does not remove the basic realities of construction. The ground still has to be prepared. The structure still has to meet local rules. The cabin still needs water, power, heat, cooling, waste disposal, and protection from weather. And depending on where you build, your county, city, or HOA may have the final say. That is why the best cabin kit is not always the cheapest one. The best cabin kit is the one that fits your land, your climate, your local rules, your budget, and your actual lifestyle. The first cabin style that gets almost everyone's attention is the classic A-frame cabin. This is probably the most iconic small cabin shape in America. The steep triangular roof, the tall front wall, the large glass face, and the loft tucked under the roofline all create a look that feels much more expensive than the footprint. An A-frame can be small, but it rarely feels boring. It has height. It has drama. It has a shape people immediately recognize as a mountain retreat. Put one in a pine forest, cover the roof with snow, turn on the interior lights, and it looks like a vacation rental people would save on their wish list. This is why A-frame kits are so clickable. They look like a lifestyle, not just a structure. They work well for weekend cabins, creative studios, short-term rentals, retreat properties, or a small second home on wooded land. The steep roof can also be practical in snowy areas if it is engineered correctly for the local load requirements. But the same shape that makes the A-frame beautiful also creates its biggest problem. The sloped walls reduce usable space along the sides. Furniture placement can be awkward. A loft may look charming in photos, but feel low, warm, and tight in real life. The big glass front that makes the cabin look expensive can also be one of the most expensive parts of the project. Large windows and doors require careful installation, good energy performance, and sometimes structural upgrades. If you are comparing an A-frame kit under $50,000 to a finished luxury cabin online, you may be comparing two very different things. The kit may include the basic structure, but the finished cabin still needs foundation, assembly, insulation, stairs, railings, electrical, plumbing, bathroom, kitchen, HVAC, interior finish, and permits. An A-frame makes sense for someone who loves design and can live with compact, unusual space. It is less ideal for someone who wants normal wall height, easy storage, accessible sleeping, or a layout that feels like a traditional small house. The second cabin style is the modern black metal cabin. This is the one that looks like it came from an architect's portfolio. Dark exterior siding, clean lines, a metal roof, large windows, a gravel driveway, and warm interior lighting can make even a small cabin look high-end. This style works because it uses contrast. The black exterior makes the cabin feel serious and modern, while the warm windows make it feel inviting. It does not look like a shed. It looks intentional. It looks designed. For YouTube thumbnails, this style is powerful because viewers immediately assume it costs more than it might. A simple rectangular cabin with dark metal siding can look like a custom retreat if the proportions are right. It can fit beautifully on wooded land, a rural lot, a lake property, or a wide-open parcel where the clean shape stands out against nature. The advantage of this style is that the basic form can be simple. A rectangle with a simple roof is often easier to build than a complicated custom shape. But the expensive feeling usually comes from the finishes. Metal siding, upgraded windows, black trim, modern doors, clean interior paneling, hidden fasteners, exterior lighting, and polished bathroom details can all add cost. Dark cladding can also absorb heat, which matters in hotter climates. If the cabin has too much glass facing the wrong direction, cooling costs can become a real issue. This is the kind of cabin where the shell may start affordably, but the finished look can get expensive quickly. The smartest modern black cabin is not the one with the wildest design. It is the one with a simple footprint, durable materials, reasonable window sizes, a compact mechanical layout, and enough insulation for the climate. When done carefully, it can look premium without becoming financially reckless. The third style is the small Scandinavian cabin. This one is quieter. It does not try to impress with size or drama. It uses light wood, tall windows, clean lines, soft colors, and a calm interior to make a small space feel peaceful. A Scandinavian-inspired cabin can be tiny and still feel expensive because it focuses on proportion, light, and simplicity. The interior may have pale wood walls, a simple desk, a compact bed, a reading chair, and a view of trees. It feels like a place where you could work remotely, write, rest, or spend a weekend away from everything. This style is especially strong as a backyard office, guest cabin, artist studio, or retreat cabin. It appeals to people who do not want a rustic hunting cabin or a dark modern box. They want something clean, warm, and calming. The challenge is that minimalist design does not hide mistakes very well. Bad trim, cheap windows, poor lighting or awkward storage become obvious because the whole style depends on clean details. Climate performance is another major issue. A light wood cabin with tall windows may look perfect in photos, but if the kit does not include strong insulation, air sealing, vapor control, and proper ventilation, the cabin can become uncomfortable in extreme weather. In cold areas, poor insulation means expensive heating. In hot areas, the wrong window orientation can create too much heat gain. In humid areas, condensation and moisture control matter. So the small Scandinavian cabin is not just about looking clean, it has to be built well behind the walls. It is a good option for people who value calm design and efficient use of space, but it is not automatically the cheapest finished cabin. The fourth style is the loft cabin kit. This is one of the most satisfying small cabin layouts because it makes people feel like the space has been doubled. Downstairs, there may be a small living area, kitchenette, bathroom, and a place to sit. Upstairs, the sleeping loft creates separation without expanding the foundation. Viewers love this because they always wonder how a small cabin fits a real life. When they see the loft, it feels clever. It feels like hidden space. It makes the cabin look more livable than the square footage suggests. For weekend use, a loft cabin can work very well. It keeps the bed out of the main living space and gives the cabin a cozy vertical feeling. It can also make the building look taller and more charming from the outside. But a loft is not magic. It can be uncomfortable if the ceiling is too low. A ladder may look cute in photos, but it can become annoying every night. A steep staircase takes up valuable floor space. Heat rises, so a loft can feel warmer than the main floor during summer. And for older adults, small children, guests, or anyone with mobility issues, climbing into bed may not be practical. There may also be code issues depending on how the cabin is permitted. A sleeping loft may need certain headroom, guardrails, stairs, emergency escape windows, or other safety requirements. What looks fine in a lifestyle image may not work as a legal sleeping area in every county. The loft cabin is best for younger buyers, weekend retreats, rental cabins with short stays, or people who genuinely enjoy compact living. It is not the best choice for someone who wants aging-in-place comfort or a cabin that functions like a normal one-bedroom house. The fifth style is the porch cabin. This is the one that feels deeply American. A small front porch, a rocking chair, a warm light near the door, a metal roof, a cup of coffee on the railing, and trees in the background can make even a very small cabin feel like home. The porch changes everything. It gives the cabin emotional value. It gives people a place to imagine themselves sitting in the morning, watching rain, taking off muddy boots, or talking with family at sunset. Even if the interior is modest, a porch makes the whole structure feel larger and more complete. This is why porch cabins are so effective visually. They do not just show shelter, they show a lifestyle. A porch also has real practical benefits. It protects the entrance, creates shade, adds outdoor living space, and improves curb appeal. For a weekend cabin, the porch may become the most used space in the entire project. But buyers need to be careful with kit pricing. A basic cabin kit may not include the porch roof, the posts, the railings, the steps, the deck boards, the stain, the foundation piers, or the labor to build it. Even when porch materials are included, the extra foundation work may not be. Outdoor structures have to deal with rain, rot, insects, snow, movement, and code requirements. A poorly built porch can become a maintenance problem quickly. The porch cabin makes the most sense when the lot has something worth facing. It does not need to be a lake or a mountain view. Even a quiet field or wooded edge can work if the cabin is placed well. But if the porch faces a driveway, a fence, or harsh afternoon sun, the value drops. The best porch cabin is not just a cabin with boards attached to the front. It is a cabin where indoor and outdoor living work together naturally. The sixth style is the tiny lake cabin. This is where the dream becomes very strong, but also where the numbers can become dangerous. A tiny cabin near water can look more expensive than almost anything else on this list. The building itself may be small, but the view does the work. A glass door facing the lake, a small deck, morning mist over the water, warm lights at night, and the sound of waves or wind can make the cabin feel like a private resort. For a second home, fishing cabin, weekend escape, or rental property, this style is extremely powerful. People are not only imagining the cabin, they are imagining the feeling of waking up near water. But land near water usually comes with more rules. Lakes, rivers, wetlands, and flood-prone areas can involve setbacks, environmental restrictions, septic limitations, soil tests, erosion control, floodplain requirements, and stricter permitting. The cabin kit may be affordable, but the site may not be. A beautiful lake lot can cost more than the structure. Utility access may be difficult. Insurance may be more complicated. Septic placement may decide where the cabin can go before the view does. If the property is in a flood zone, the foundation may need to be elevated or engineered differently. This is why the lake cabin is one of the most attractive options, and one of the easiest to underestimate. If you already own buildable lake area land with clear rules, a small prefab cabin can be an incredible project. But if you are still shopping for land, the cabin kit price should not be the number that convinces you. The first number should be the cost of making that land legally and practically buildable. The seventh style is the barn-style mini cabin. This cabin does not always have the glamour of an A-frame or the sleek look of a black modern cabin, but it has something very useful: familiar volume. A barn-style or gambrel roof cabin can look larger than its footprint because the roof creates height. That extra height can allow for a loft, storage, or simply a more open feeling inside. The shape fits naturally on rural American land because it already feels connected to farms, workshops, and country properties. For many buyers, that familiarity is a benefit. It does not look trendy. It looks normal, warm, and useful. A barn-style mini cabin can work well on a rural lot, a backyard, a hunting property, or a larger homestead where a modern glass box might feel out of place. It may also be easier to make it look homey with a small porch, shutters, warm siding, or a simple metal roof. But this category has one major warning. Some barn-style structures are closer to sheds than residential cabins. That does not make them useless, but it means you must know what you are buying. A storage building, a shell, a recreational cabin, and a code-compliant dwelling are not the same thing. To turn a barn-style shell into a real living space, you may need residential windows, proper doors, insulation, vapor control, interior framing, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, egress, fire blocking, bathroom waterproofing, and foundation work. If the structure was not designed for residential use from the beginning, the upgrades can become more complicated than expected. The barn-style cabin can be a strong option for people who want simple rural character and a building that looks bigger than it is. But it is risky if the only reason you like it is the cheap base price. Cheap becomes expensive when the structure has to be heavily modified to become what you actually need. The eighth style is the off-grid cabin kit. This one may be the most emotionally powerful because it touches the dream of independence. A small cabin in the woods, solar panels nearby, a wood stove inside, a water tank, maybe a gravel road, maybe no neighbors in sight. For many people, this is not just a building. It is an escape from bills, noise, crowded neighborhoods, and the feeling of being trapped by the normal housing system. Off-grid cabin content is popular because it gives people a sense of control. Some want a hunting cabin. Some want a prepper-style retreat. Some want a quiet writing cabin. Some want land now and a larger home later. Some simply want one place where the monthly costs feel lower and life feels more direct. A small off-grid cabin kit can be a good starting point because smaller spaces are easier to heat, cool, furnish, and maintain. But off-grid does not automatically mean cheap. Solar panels, batteries, inverters, wiring, backup generators, wells, pumps, cisterns, water filtration, septic systems, composting toilets, propane, wood stoves, driveway access, snow removal, internet, and fire safety can all add major costs. In some places, drilling a well can cost more than the cabin kit. In other places, septic approval can decide whether the project works at all. If the land is remote, every contractor visit can cost more because travel time becomes part of the job. There is also a lifestyle cost. Off-grid living asks more from the owner. You need to understand power limits, water storage, maintenance, heating, weather, access, and emergency planning. A weekend off-grid cabin can be wonderful. A full-time off-grid home is a much bigger commitment. The off-grid cabin is best for people who want simplicity and are honest about systems. It is risky for people who think the cabin itself is the whole solution. The structure may be the easiest part. The utilities are the real project. The ninth style is the backyard guest cabin. This one may not look as dramatic as a lake retreat, but for many homeowners, it may be more realistic. Instead of buying rural land, clearing a driveway, drilling a well, and dealing with septic from scratch, the backyard cabin starts with property someone may already own. It can become a home office, a guest room, a studio, a room for an adult child, a space for aging parents, or in some places, a small rental unit if local rules allow it. This is why backyard cabins and ADU-style structures are getting so much attention. They solve a space problem without requiring a full move. They can add function to a property, and they make people look at their own backyard differently. But this type of cabin is controlled by rules: zoning, setbacks, height limits, lot coverage, HOA restrictions, fire access, utility connections, parking requirements, rental rules, and ADU permits can decide whether the project is possible. Some places are becoming more flexible with accessory dwelling units, while others remain strict. Even when the structure is small, it may still need permits, inspections, foundation approval, and utility work. The biggest misunderstanding is the difference between a studio and a dwelling. A simple office without plumbing may be much easier to approve. A legal living unit with a bathroom and kitchen is a more serious project. Once someone sleeps there long-term, rents it, or uses it as an independent home, the rules can change. The backyard guest cabin is best for homeowners who need practical extra space and are willing to check local requirements before buying. It is not a good fit for someone hoping to quietly drop a cabin in the yard and deal with the rules later. The 10th style is the luxury-looking glass front cabin. This is the one that creates the biggest reaction. A tall glass wall, a high ceiling, warm wood inside, a dark roof, simple furniture, and trees outside can make a small cabin look like a high-end Airbnb retreat. It proves that perceived value is not only about size. A small cabin can look expensive if the proportions, light, materials, and setting are right. For a retreat property or rental cabin, the glass front style is powerful because it gives people the photograph they want. It makes the interior feel larger. It connects the cabin to the landscape. It turns the view into part of the room. But glass is never just glass. Large windows and doors can be expensive to buy, ship, install, and replace. They affect energy performance. In cold climates, poor glass can lose heat. In hot climates, too much glass can create heat gain. In private areas, large glass may require expensive shades or careful placement. In snowy or windy regions, large openings may need stronger engineering. And if the glass wall is the main reason the cabin looks expensive, downgrading it later can change the whole character of the design. This cabin teaches one of the most important pricing lessons. A kit may start under $50,000, but the choices that make it look like a luxury retreat may not be included in that base number. The wow factor is real. The cost of the wow factor is real too. So when you see the phrase under $50,000, you have to ask what that number actually includes. In many cases, it may mean a frame package, a shell package, a panel package, or the main material package. It may include structural components. It may include pre-cut framing. It may include wall panels or roof materials. It may include plans. In some cases, it may include windows and doors, but in other cases, those are upgrades. Delivery may be included, or it may be separate. Engineering may be included, or it may need to be handled locally. The online photo may show a finished cabin with lights, furniture, decks, landscaping, and a beautiful setting, while the price may describe only the kit. The final project has many layers. There is land, if you do not already own it. There is clearing, grading, drainage, driveway access, soil testing, foundation, delivery, assembly labor, roofing, windows, doors, insulation, electrical, plumbing, water source, septic or sewer connection, HVAC, interior walls, flooring, cabinets, countertops, appliances, bathroom finishes, lighting, paint, stairs, decks, porches, gutters, permits, inspections, utility fees, taxes, insurance, and a contingency budget for surprises. That does not mean cabin kits are a bad idea. It means they need to be judged correctly. A cabin kit under $50,000 can be a smart starting point if it gives you a buildable design, reduces material confusion, speeds up assembly, and helps your contractor understand the structure. It can be especially useful when the footprint is simple, the roofline is simple, the plumbing is compact, the windows are not oversized, and the manufacturer is clear about what is included. But the kit price is not the whole cabin. It is the opening move. If you want the most emotional vacation look, the A-frame and the glass front cabin are hard to beat. They photograph beautifully, feel like retreats, and make a small footprint feel special. But they can also become expensive if the glass, loft, insulation, and site work are not planned carefully. If you want something more practical for everyday use, the porch cabin and loft cabin may make more sense. The porch adds outdoor living without needing a bigger interior, and the loft adds sleeping space without expanding the foundation. But both come with trade-offs. A porch is not free, and a loft is not comfortable for everyone. If you want a work-from-home retreat, the Scandinavian cabin or backyard guest cabin may be the smartest. They do not need to be huge. They need good light, comfort, quiet, and local approval. A simple office cabin without plumbing may be much easier than a full dwelling with a kitchen and bathroom. If you want independence, the off-grid cabin is the dream, but it is also the one where the systems can cost more than expected. The cabin itself may be small. The power, water, septic, heating, road access, and internet are what decide whether it really works. If you want a cabin that looks bigger than its price, the barn-style mini cabin deserves attention. It can offer height, rural character, and practical volume. But you have to confirm whether it is truly designed for residential use or whether it is a shell that still needs major upgrades. The deeper lesson is that the cheapest kit is not always the best deal. The best deal is the cabin with the fewest expensive surprises. A simple footprint can save money. A simple roof can save money. Standard window sizes can save money. A compact plumbing wall can save money. A foundation matched to the soil can save money. A design your county understands can save time. A structure that is easy to insulate can save comfort for years. And a cabin that avoids unnecessary complexity can protect your budget better than a flashy design with a lower advertised price. The worst way to buy a cabin kit is to fall in love with one beautiful photo and ignore everything outside the frame. The best way is to start with the whole project. Where will it sit? Can you legally build it there? What foundation does the site need? Where will water come from? Where will waste go? How will it be heated and cooled? Who will assemble it? What does local labor cost? What permits are required? What is included in the kit? What is not included? And if the finished project costs much more than the kit price, does it still make sense? That last question is uncomfortable, but it can save the entire budget. A cabin kit under $50,000 can still become a beautiful retreat. It can become a weekend escape, a guest house, a studio, a small rental, or the first step toward a simpler life. But the people who succeed with these projects usually treat the kit as the beginning, not the finish line. Because the cheapest cabin is not always the smartest cabin. The smartest cabin is the one that still feels affordable after it is legal, insulated, connected, finished, and comfortable enough to actually use. So, if you were building one of these, which one would you choose? The A-frame, the modern black cabin, the porch cabin, the off-grid cabin, or the glass front retreat? And would you use it as a weekend escape, a backyard guest house, or the first step toward living on your own land?